Welcome everybody to SEO Office Hours. My name is Michael Chidzey. I'm an SEO here at Good Signals. And part of what we do, along with special guests, are these office hour sessions where people can jump in and ask their questions around their website and web search. By the way, nobody here is in the hot seat and we might not know all the answers, but multiple heads thinking about a problem should help. I have a bunch of questions submitted already, as you can see, but if there's anybody here live on the call that would like to ask any questions, feel free to flag that in the chat functionality, which will be monitored. Also, there's usually a bunch of other SEOs live here on the call, and please continue to share your perspectives. I think that's one of the best things about SEO Office Hours, isn't just the four of us, but it's everybody else sharing their thoughts, ideas on the questions. Like every week, with me today is Juliana Turnbull, also known as SEO Joe Blogs. Good morning.
Hello, Mike. Thank you for having us today. So this is our 48th episode of SEO Office Hours, so just over a year. And I just want to say a big thank you to everyone for joining us live and also those that are watching the replay. Thank you to Monsi, Simon, Dani, Umama, John. We have Raquel, Max, Jordan, Emily, Oluwato, Biloba, Albert, Daniel, Walid, Andrew, Neil, Benjamin, Nishant, as well, Boran, Ikra, Uzar. Tell us where you're dialing in from today. We've got quite a lot of people, we've got 29 of us. And I just want to say thank you for supporting us for this past year. It's been a difficult week for some, so you just want to be able to hear and help you with any of your SEO questions. And I'm really pleased that we have two special guests on today, Steve and Gabi. Thank you very much, Steve and Gabi, for joining us.
Go, Gabi, after you.
Thank you for having us, or having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, on the most informative SEO webcast of the week. Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. Gabi, you are a technical SEO and content marketing consultant. You're based in Switzerland. You have a very strong background in finance and e-commerce and also freelance consulting. You have a very wide, you began your career managing content and SEO at Credit Suisse. And then you founded Fee AG, a Swiss e-commerce brand selling plants in 2020. And under your leadership, the company grew into successful business with a team of 25. Very impressive. And it's now been established as a recognized online brand. And in 2023, you transitioned from Fee to focus on freelance consulting. And you specialize in SEO audits, strategy development, and content planning. You're also passionate about training, workshops, and lecturing. Wow, you seem very busy, Gabi. How do you find the time?
I don't know. No, it feels like I've lived so many lives, but yeah, it's difficult to find the time. Now I have a 3-month-old at home, so that makes it even harder, but I'm just transitioning back into SEO work and I'm really excited about that. Great. One note, I know for English speakers, super hard, but the brand is pronounced Faye.
Oh,
and
sorry.
That was the thing we didn't think about English speakers when we thought about the name, because it's really just an imaginative name.
Ah, okay. Congratulations for the business and congratulations for becoming a mom.
Thank you so much.
And Steve, you have been a regular on as an audience member. Thank you for the support. Steve is the English language marketing manager at Systrix, and he manages the data journalism team that produces IndexWatch, SectorWatch, and Visibility Leaders, which he presents regularly at Brighton SEO. He's got a background in internet work that goes back to the pre-web days, Steve. You might need to tell us what you used to do before. But he did mention that the new Systrix Visibility Leaders Retail 2024 is out. Domains, intent, trends, and deep analysis of the 4 winning SEO content directories in the sector are in this report. There's actually 4 different reports from 4 experts, and I'll share this in the chat as well. Thank you for joining us on the show, Steve.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, pre-web, Archie, Usenet, bulletin boards, dial-ups, all that rubbish. Started life on some microcomputers back in the 80s and didn't realize that I was actually working on intranets at the time, and ended up in a team called the Internet Working Team at British Telecom in the UK, where there was 6 people working on internet. 6. That was it.
Imagine what's happened now, like so much change. And you're also a parent of 2. So
yes,
congratulations to
that. Well, they're getting older now, so I'm getting a bit more free time back, which is good. Anyway, thanks for having me. Thank you.
Thanks. I'll just share the new Visibility Leaders Retail 2024 study. Find out here, and you can download it. Okay, thank you very much. We've got a very busy morning, so I'll pass over to you, Mike.
Great. Okay, let's jump straight into it. So I'm just going to read out the question as it came in. So this isn't me saying this just came into my inbox. So this just came into my inbox, and it's a link from one of the SEO testing tools. It's basically a case study, which I'll share in the chat now. This just came into my inbox. It's definitely worth the read. Our current hypothesis is to test category pages by adding content to them. And we're hoping that will basically improve traffic. So the case study itself is very on point. But a key takeaway from this is that user experience can affect ranking, and therefore some things that are added or removed can drive inquiries but may frustrate users, can be a double-edged sword. And effectively what the case study says is it's looking at category pages, and they've done an SEO test for this particular website, and the winning test is where there is no content on the category pages. And so their hypothesis before was essentially by adding content to the pages and improving the pages, they were expecting those pages to rank better. But this particular SEO test says otherwise. And so what they wanted to talk to us about is that I guess best practice doesn't always mean the way we need to go. And do we have any thoughts on it? Did you guys, Steve, Gabi, Joe, did you get a chance to have a quick look at the case study? Super. Who would like to give their thoughts? So basically, should we be listening to these case studies? Should we just decide, let's remove all the content on our website and go with user experience? Pretty, I could see your face there being like, no, I was being sarcastic, by the way. Who would like to kick off? Joe, what about you? What are your thoughts?
I was just coughing at the moment, and I was just seeing what, Simon said. No such thing as SEO text. It is text. Very good, Simon. So I was, distracted because I was looking at Preeti and some of the other people. So maybe you can pass over to, I think Steve had a few things to say.
Yeah. Does anybody else want to go, or shall I jump in first? Yeah. Steve, do you want to go?
Go for it. I've got some data. So I think obviously A/B testing is correct, right? It's correct to do some A/B testing. It's absolutely right. I really think that the article is good food for thought. The SEO content thing, yeah, I agree with Simon Cox. It's not SEO content. And the other thing in the background is you'd think that Google needs a little bit of text to understand what a category page is about. But then looking at some data this morning, I was looking at little red dresses. I was looking at wooden trains for kids. Those are self-explanatory landing pages. But then you get to things like my favorite one from Boohoo, day drinking outfits. It's a Manchester thing, people. And you think, actually, the user might need a little bit of text to give them some confidence that they're actually on the page, they're on the right page, because it's not obvious. In fact, the first three images, I think, have a white T-shirt on them, and I think all day drinking, white T-shirt, that doesn't go together. But anyway, that text gives you the confidence that you're on the right page. So I've got a women's fashion tracker going here. And if I look at the top 5 URLs, they are all category pages, and every single one of them has landing page text on it. So data tells me that text is probably, or more often than not, a good thing. That's what I'll say from the data point of view.
Great. Gabi, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I love that we're talking data here. And also what was part of the question is testing. And I think you with those things, you can't just get around testing it for yourself, because that's what I don't like about like general SEO advice out there that says text is a good thing, because it depends on so much on how that text is written, how it resonates with your audience, like your brand voice. Where is it placed on the category? Is it like really an introductory text that doesn't really tell people much more than you're in the category trousers and jeans are part of trousers? Or is it really something that resonates with your audience? So I think that's, if you have, like you usually would have more than one category, right? And so you could easily test that out, because I agree with that statement that it's super important. Always good to have data, always good to be testing it yourself.
Great. Joe, do you have anything to add?
I just wanted to say that I feel perhaps maybe the frustration of the person that wrote it, because he's doing something and it's resulted in not what they or she was what they expected. I think it would be good as well to make sure that if you are going down a certain route and you're saying, oh, this is what we'd like to do, and these are the results we expect, that if you get the buy-in as well from any key stakeholders, if you need to make those changes, because yes, if it turns out to be results of not what you expected, then it's better to have shared this with the wider team rather than to have it all on you, because yeah, these are hypotheses. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to actually happen. We've done lots of these at school, at uni, and other parts. So SEO is no different.
Great. Yeah, I think it's also important to think about the context of the email that they got with this case study in the first place. That I think the purpose of any case study is to effectively try and sell you something. And usually there is some sort of element of kind of shock or surprise or something that makes you think, oh, maybe I need to do that. By having a test result or an example that says the opposite to what most people assume, such as best practices, is quite a good way of going, oh, maybe I need to have a go at doing SEO testing and trying some of these things out. I can't recommend it enough, actually. I do lots of SEO testing, and it is a great way to see if what you're doing is actually working. And there are lots of options out there and at different price points and so on. But I agree with what Gabi was saying around, basically, it does depend in terms of industry, what the market's, your website, every customer, everyone, every site and so on is different. And so it's just one of those things that this might work for one particular website, but it might not work for another. And Steve was saying, when it comes to data, I don't look at the search results in the detail that the guys at Systrix do, but I do often look at the most competitive terms and in the most competitive industries. And it's very rare to see category pages that rank really well that don't have some sort of data, if it's anything that isn't completely obvious. So if this is a website that's about, I don't know, because that's the thing, the case study actually doesn't say, it just says an e-commerce website. It doesn't actually say what the industry is or what the product is. So if it's like a crockery website and the category page is about mugs and cups, you probably don't need a huge description explaining what a mug and cup is. But actually, if it's a more complex category or product, or you need to show a point of difference, then like Steve gave that example, then that makes sense to have a bit of text and so on to just help explain what makes your product so different or your category so different to the hundreds of others out there. So yeah, I think things like, the other thing, just on this particular case study, I also looked a little bit further into the website and looked at some of their other case studies. And they have some other case studies saying the opposite thing for things like product pages and things like that. So it really is one of those things that it is a really good thing to do SEO testing. And it just depends on your website, your industry, and so on. So when you see case studies like this, whether it's SEO agencies, whether it's SEO testing tools, whatever, don't just copy what they're saying, because as I said, as you get into their website and you look at other case studies, they're also recommending the other things based on other websites. They're my thoughts on that. Joe, do we have anything in the chat?
Yes, we do. Chris has said that I've played with UX and performance when considering CWVs and mobile first indexing a few years ago. And what I learned was, yes, they are very important. But one thing that seems to be overlooked is the entities. Are they both A and B equal? That's a good point, actually. Another one, Monse, is UX is a general concept that relates to content as well. Some jokes from Simon. Preacher saying that one wise person said that you don't believe everything on the internet that you see. So, interesting. So yeah, lots of good answers there.
Great. Okay, let's go to the next question.
Yeah, we've got loads of questions.
We have. Okay, so how might Google interpret deliberate modifications in spelling within title tags, headings, and page copy to improve readability for end users? And the example that they give on their site is some of their core terms include the phrase to-dos. So I'm guessing some sort of software platform or something that has to-do lists and things like that. And they use the apostrophe in the word do's to help readers or end users when they're Googling. So they see the wrong spelling in title tags, they see it in headings and so on. However, they do it because they can't not see DOS. And so they're wondering if this is basically some sort of poor signal in terms of quality. Does it matter that they're basically spelling it wrong because they're trying to help the end user? Who would like to kick off on this one? Do you think it matters?
I would say I don't think it does matter. And I would also say take a step back outside the internet. There's a lot of English speaking people that speak one language and they always get these apostrophes wrong. So I don't think it's a big issue. Just make sure that the readers can understand it.
What about you, Steve? You're nodding, and Gabi, you're nodding. Do you think it matters if they're spelling words wrong because it helps the users understand what the word is?
I think Google is intelligent enough to work this one out, to be honest. Simple. Data tells me that they're very good at working out the real meaning of words despite their spelling. But I will tell you, I spoke to a journalist last week who was telling me about the deliberate apostrophe errors that they drop into some text to trigger comments on social media platforms, to trigger the grammar teachers. So there is a little subculture of mistake making in text. I think is really interesting. And this has been happening for a lot of years. There's actually a BBC Media Show podcast about this, where an agency was dropping mistakes into social media to trigger commentary. So interesting. So you've got the mistakes to help the user and the mistakes to trigger commentary. But I think at the end of the day, Google's intelligent enough to work out the context.
Great. Gabi, do you agree? If you've got any extra thoughts on that?
I agree. I find that super, super funny, actually. And I wouldn't have thought of it as well, like what Steve said. But other than that, yeah, I would be surprised if it really mattered. I don't have data to really prove it. And I would be, as I said, as I saw in the chat that Simon said, testing it again. I would be testing it as well. And also in the original question, it said that the competitors of that certain brand also show a variety of variations for that particular case. So yeah, that's what I would recommend as well.
Yeah. When I saw the question come in, I was wondering if it's actually just an internal problem that, I'm wondering if it is actually an issue that people do see it differently, or whether it's just somebody in the business that, because now they've said it to me, like now we've got it in the question, I can't not see DOS. But I think before that, I would have, if it's got the word to before that, I wouldn't have thought to DOS. I'm wondering if it's just like an internal issue that they've got, and maybe they need to go and ask people and do a little bit of user testing and just go and find out if it is actually an internal issue or not. My preference would be to spell the word correctly, but I'm sure that like this would also be a great SEO test as well, because they've mentioned title tags and headings and all of that stuff. But
you can also reference some of the style guides for newspapers. They are published. BBC have a style guide, and you could probably find good references to that in there.
Yeah, good. Great feedback. Joe, is there anything in the chat?
Just some comments. I like this one from Dani saying that, oh, where did it go? He said that you already had a German teacher offer to correct your website, but some of it's on purpose because German is a horrible language for readability if you make everything 100% correct. Yeah, because they do capitals on all the nouns and all these things. Yeah, quite difficult. And then this is from Dan Kennedy. Good copywriting should anger English teachers. John saying this is also a thing for missing. Yeah, he said letter decoration. So Mueller, M-U with the umlaut. I think it's L-E-R versus Mueller, M-U-E-L-E-R. Even more extreme with transliterations in Hindi, or of course in other languages too, like Turkish. Like a lot of the symbols actually I found, and even a European keyboard, they don't have it. So yeah, testing I think would be great, but as Steve has also said, it's not going to affect your site too much. It wouldn't. Google is intelligent enough to understand the apostrophe S or the no apostrophe S.
The one thing I was thinking as well is that obviously if somebody's Googling relevant terms, that probably plays an impact as well, that if they did spell it correctly, if somebody's actually searching for that and then they see a word, they're going to see do instead of DOS. So I don't know, from a user perspective, I'm personally on the camp that I would probably just spell it correctly, but I think maybe I'm the only one. Cool. Okay. I'm the grabber police of that.
No, I think just another, I've missed this comment actually. Chris was saying actually perhaps maybe pre-BERT it would have mattered, but now with proper context it should be fine. Yeah, also Simon's talking about test it as well. Oh, Jordan said that he kept seeing people using the word car instead of cat in Instagram reels. And then 9 out of 10 times there's multiple comments correcting them. So it's also some people just when you're writing as well, it's autocorrects the wrong thing. But anyway, that's interesting. We got a lot of comments on this one.
Great. Okay, next question. How are we doing for time? Oh, we got loads of time. Great. Our site got 23,404 errors on the 29th of October. Is there any possibility to solve this and remove these errors? It depends on what the errors are, where you've seen them. If they're in Search Console, you can usually see which URLs are showing and have a look. And I would just investigate this yourself, where put those URLs into Google and see if you're also getting those 404s and if that content doesn't exist anymore. Gabi or Steve, do you have any thoughts on this one?
About it. Doesn't sound great, no? Again, lacking context. Definitely would also recommend going to Search Console and see how it resolves there and checking them in the browser even manually. Also, if it's a crawler issue, maybe because there's so many URLs, recrawl that. Yeah, and just test like the live status code of those URLs.
Great. Joe, do you have anything to add?
They're very specific on the 29th of October, so I would check what happened on that day or the day before. Perhaps there was a site migration that they did, or perhaps if it's an e-commerce site and maybe they've sold out miraculously of loads of Halloween stuff. And so they have 404s.
23,000 Halloween products.
I don't know. They might have a lot of Halloween goodies they're giving away. I don't know. And if they have it set up on their site that if something's out of stock, at least a 404 error, perhaps that might be the case. But look and see from a tech standpoint what happened the day before or a couple of days before that.
Yeah, that's a really good chat. And also just asking other people involved in the sort of marketing and dev departments, did anything happen that just went under the radar that then was fixed?
That's exactly it. I was going to say, just have a quick coffee with the person looking after the website.
Yeah. And because we don't know, they said our site got that or happened, but we don't know what's it now, obviously, because it was more than a week ago. So maybe it's been fixed. Maybe someone realized they did something a bit oops, and then they're fixing it now.
Yeah, but I guess if the question's around, was there something that we all have we all experienced this? And I haven't, so I don't think there was anything general that happened. I think it sounds like this is a problem with your site. And so what Gabi was saying about just recrawling and seeing what's happened. Okay, is there anything in the chat, Joe, or should we jump to the next question?
Oh, just saying that maybe actually something in the footer, Albert was saying perhaps you might have broken the 404 URL link. And also, if you have a long URL, someone was saying like blog post titles sometimes, and someone links to it from Facebook. Facebook can sometimes shorten that URL, and then it ends up in a 404. Chris was also saying it might be a link to a subdomain that has any issues. But yeah, definitely, I'd ask the rest of your team what happened a couple of days before that.
Great. Okay, next question. How can we as an independent brand stand out and compete against giants like Etsy and Amazon, especially when they dominate with so many backlinks and unlimited resources? Steve, may I come to you on this one as a starting point? Is that all right?
Yes. Okay. I'm not practicing SEO. I'm a practicing brand builder of statistics, but I want to talk about getting down into your own niche, because when we do these visibility studies, what I often see is the Reddits, the elephants in the room come up, but once you start niching down, these elephants start to fade away and you start to get into really interesting areas where you don't see brands. So a recent example, Halloween costumes. Charlie Williams just published a SectorWatch on that. Amazon.co.uk are number one, but there's a very niche dedicated website, halloweencostumes.co.uk. That's not a brand for me. That's a matching domain name. And number two, they're never going to build that as a brand either. It's a generic term. So once you get down into your niche, and another example is Reddit's. Everyone talks about Reddit's competitors as Wikipedia and Quora. Actually, no, Reddit has competitors at the subreddit level. They have millions of competitors. And once you get down to those areas, you'll find that there are non-brand competing websites. So all I can say is there is definitely opportunity for non-brand. Now, I'm not saying that don't be a brand, but I'm saying there's definitely opportunity for non-brand, especially in the niche areas.
Great. Joe, do you have anything to add? I have nothing to add. I'll pass over to Gabi.
Yeah, I really love this question. And I'm actually going to talk about how to break into a saturated market in my talk at SMX Munich in March. So I'm all about this. And it's also when we founded Faye, our e-commerce brand, it's a brand that sells plants, and plants have existed before, right? It's really a saturated market. There's so much to say about this. I'll try to keep it short. But what I always say is that SEO has so much to do with product. So if your product is really interchangeable or really just bad, then there's only so much you can do with SEO. But if you have USPs and factors that stand out from your competition and from Amazon and stuff, like you might have super fast delivery times or outstanding customer service or a guarantee that extends, like a warranty, then do definitely point that out in the content, even on a product level. So that's something where you can really differentiate. Content in general, I'm a huge fan of content, especially now in these times where everything looks a bit the same with AI, because you can really show what humans are behind that specific brand. Amazon can't do that. They have so many sellers on there. So humanize the content, as in show people's faces if that's possible. Let their tones of voices shine through in content. And that's not just informational content, not just blog posts, but also on a product page level. We did that in 2020 when EAT was very young still. We showed faces. We let people use emojis however much they want. Like branding always, or building a brand, we always think first about imagery and fonts and stuff like that, but it's really tone of voice. So wherever you have a touch point with customers or with potential customers, you have an opportunity to strengthen your brand and really have that voice and show your values as well. So I think that's content in that broad sense is a huge factor. And then also, of course, you have stuff like reviews and testimonials you can put on your product pages that maybe go beyond what Amazon and Etsy show. And then also something I will be talking in more detail about at the conference is the whole aspect of community. If you're able to build a community, then that's like the biggest lever you have in terms of brand loyalty. And then people also specifically look for your brand, and you get that association between your product and your brand. And that's when Google and other search engines can't ignore you, and they'll show you, even though you might be a smaller brand in that space.
That's very interesting. So you'll be speaking at SMX Munich in March next year, and you're speaking at Brush and SEO, correct, as well, in April?
In SEO too, yeah.
Okay, very good. So we can share, I think we'll share the links in the chat and also in the description. Thank you, Gabi.
Great. I would just say with this one, if I'm working on a project and our category or our products, if it's a smaller company, are up against companies like Amazon, Etsy, and so on, I actually think it's easier to outrank them than it is other sort of direct competitors that can do all the things that Gabi spoke about and Steve spoke about, because you can only do so much with the Amazon kind of page framework and so much with the Etsy pages. Whereas actually you can have a ton of content on your website that's all dedicated to what you do, and your story can be all about it and all of those things that Gabi was saying. So yeah, and I think you can predict what they can do with an Amazon page and what they can do with an Etsy page. And actually you can take loads from it. Usually there are great reviews and there are questions and things like that that are quite specific and small on something like Amazon, but you can turn into entire blog posts or guides or whatever it is that you want for your website. If you are an independent, smaller brand that has that real focus, I would be more worried about your direct competitors than those in terms of trying to win online and get in front of those customers. And obviously all the kind of basics should be there, that you want to have a good website that people like using and has all the kind of relevant information about your product. But yeah, personally, I would be less worried about those big brands that have all of those different products. And I think it was Gabi that said they've got so many on there, they can only do so much versus what you can do. Joe, is there anything in the chat?
Yeah, we've got quite a lot of comments. Steve saying, yeah, I'll take notes, Gabi. Preach is saying exactly as Gabi, leverage what they cannot. Chris is saying that, yeah, there's some big brands that are full of issues because the bigger ships take long to turn and for updates as well. So make sure that you build clean, precise, and focus purely on a niche and add depth, and make sure you have continuity through all the channels, and also messaging, NAP imagery, and so on. We also have Monty saying, when choosing the channels to market, choose the ones that works for you. So don't always be on TikTok if that's not where you want to be. Yeah, and also, yeah, Chris is mentioning that he has no proof, but he believes that Google can figure out the author entities through style of tone, which can help with subject authority. So AI will remove that. So you don't need to worry about AI in that case, but just make sure that you are the voice for your brand, because there is only one of you. And oh, this is a very good case study from Jordan. He was saying that one of his friends started a business on Etsy and eventually launched their own website because she was offering better deals on bulk discounts or B2B sales. She did so well that she ended up getting stocked up in HMV. I think this approach can help you get your foot through the door and then redirect those customers to your own platform. HMV, getting stocked up in HMV. Sorry, I wasn't sure what that one is, but maybe you could just clarify. But basically, the point is that I think his friend did a very good business and then actually managed to do better than she was doing on Etsy, which is great. And Umama was talking about focus on a particular product category or target audience, create a strong story, brand story, and visual identity. So every time there's a message in the chat, it moves the comment. With the amount of social resources, Walid's saying, with what we have today, there's lots of resources out there right now. And so you can actually build your own brand. And I'd like to emphasize what Gabi said about community. There's a lot of competition out there. If you have a product or a service, yeah, it's really great to focus on building the community as well. If we take the SEO office hours as an example, thank you very much everyone for joining us. We've had a regular show, and thank you to John for starting it and supporting us. That's part of a community. And thank you everyone that's watching us from the replay. If you want to join the show, we always have a live audience at 9:30 a.m. GMT, and you can sign up on the Good Signals website. So I would say if you want to build something, there's a lot of competition in anything you do, but if you do it right, build a community and focus on your brand, you will succeed. You can look at this for other products. Did anyone watch the Michael Jordan movie about how Nike took over from Converse and is now one of the leading brand retailers? Slight distraction, sorry. So basically, I really like what you were saying, Gabi, about community. And I'll pass it over to you, Mike.
Great. Okay, super. We had one question, which I think this blog post will answer. So I'm just going to share it, which was basically how to set up a 301 redirect in Webflow. So I've just shared a blog post, which it explains. It's quite complicated, actually, because it's not in the actual site part, it's in the global part. That's there. Okay, it feels a little bit early to answer this question. So if anyone's got anything to add, feel free to, but we can always pick the can and come back to it. Somebody said, for the next session, I'd love to ask about the expectations for the new OpenAI Search GPT. I'm just curious about how it might impact other search engines, if at all. I think if I'm honest, I've only played with it a little bit. Has anybody else had a chance to, obviously ChatGPT I played with lots, but I just mean SearchGPT, because I think it was last week, wasn't it, that it came out? No? Okay.
Yeah, it hasn't been out for that long. So if anyone has any questions, this one, I'd love to ask about the expectation for the new OpenAI feature. I put it in the chat, the SearchGPT. So if anyone has any comments, feel free. Otherwise, we'll move to the next question.
Super. Next question. I lead our paid media team. We're redoing our website and need to decide, should we have one page for all broadcast media or separate pages for radio, TV, podcast, streaming, print, and social? So I don't do paid media, so I can't answer it specifically, but can talk about other things. Gabi, what would you do? Would you have separate pages? Would you have one page? Do you have any thoughts on that?
I don't do paid media either, but like from an SEO perspective, if those pages are really different, like radio is super different from TV, then obviously it would make sense to have different pages. But that's what kind of it sounds like an easy question, but I also find if you don't really have a lot to say then on these pages, then it's better to stick to one page. So always do your keyword due diligence, not just for like radio and TV and shorthead keywords like that, but also like in what niche are you operating and what is it you're really trying to bring traffic in? How are you trying to bring that traffic in, and what should they then do on your page? Or is it more important that they actually see the whole offering that you have in terms of broadcasting, if that makes sense?
Great. Steve, you're nodding to Gabi's answer there.
Yeah, of course, I don't do paid media either, but it seems to me that if you're actually working in multiple niches, that these are opportunities for traffic and ad targeting. So it makes sense to me that you'd break them out into, I can't think of a reason why not, unless you don't do those things.
Yeah.
Yeah, Joe?
Yeah, that's true. The thing is, if they're all distinguished, if they're all different, and maybe you want to have a page about some of the previous podcasts you've done or some of the examples of the print you've done, then yes, put a different page. But if you don't have the content, then could just keep it all on the one, but it's a bit different because we don't know the context for it. I think another one is because the person says I lead the paid media team. Maybe they're asking if we need to do some PPC landing pages as well. Perhaps they're thinking they need to do that for each of the individual pages, as well as actually have a live page that's for SEO and for users too. But I would say if it makes sense to actually have the different pages, then do that. If it doesn't, then keep it on one and keep it short for each section.
Great. If I was working on this project, I think I'd be thinking about why you'd want to create these different pages. Are you thinking you want to create them because you want to rank for them all, or are you doing it because you basically have different customers for each of those different types of broadcast media or paid media? So if that's the case, in the features that are different for each of those customers, I would probably, from a user experience point of view, I'd probably have them as separate pages. If you're thinking that you need to create different pages because you basically want to rank for those terms, that also depends on how tough the market is. And actually, by creating those pages, it doesn't mean you're necessarily going to rank for them straight away. So I think I hate using the phrase it depends, but I guess it depends on why you're doing it. And also with what you do, does the customer, do they do all of them? Do they sign up to all of those features, and therefore it makes sense to have it as one broadcast media page? Or is it that they can opt into different parts and all of this type of stuff, which I imagine. And so if actually only some of those types of media are relevant to some of the customers, I probably wouldn't push them all together onto one page, because it sounds like Joe was saying you might have examples and all of that stuff. So I think this is probably, I guess it is an SEO question. I think it's a business question as well, and a customer experience question. And from an SEO perspective, it just really depends on where your market is and how competitive that is. Some countries might be less competitive than others, and some cities and all of that stuff. It might work if you're trying to do something locally, but yeah, the thing is, we have quite a few pages on our website, and I always think that actually sometimes it's easier to have one page than have lots to manage, because once you do it, then you've then got to keep those pages up to date and so on. It's probably easier to have one really good broadcast media page or paid media page than it is to have lots of them. But then also, I guess it's a world where things like podcasts, for example, they're way more popular now than they were, and there's probably other stuff like that in the future, and having them as separate pages means that you can give all of them the equal amount of visibility, unlike on one page where you have to prioritize. Yeah, I personally think that it's not just an SEO question, but if it is to rank, I would do some SEO research first and try and work out whether it's even possible, and look at the competition and all of that stuff. Also, the other thing is you might be a specialist in one of those areas, and you might want to make more of that particular area, and therefore I'd probably have a page on that. But yeah, hopefully that was helpful. Okay, do we have anything in the chat, Joe?
Just a couple of comments. So Chris is saying, I think you should keep it separate and use effective internal linking. Steve made a point that ad performance tracking might be easier when it's segmenting. So that could actually be quite good. Like we mentioned earlier about PPC, having PPC landing pages. And the mom has talked about consider your audience preferences. Some users may prefer a consolidated page, while others might prefer more detailed information. If you already have this website for a while, why don't you do a user group or a feedback session and find out what people prefer? You can ask that internally. You can also ask people that are using the product service a lot, and you can also ask people that are not as close to the product, family, friends, things like that, people like that. Yeah, lots of interaction here. Yeah, and also back to the PPC Pacific landing pages, Chris was saying that you do need to consider the experience as well for the quality score that you get for PPC. So lots to think about. I just want to say thank you just for everyone that's always joining us every week. We're really happy with how many people have the show. We have this now every Friday at 9:30 a.m. GMT. And thanks also people that are watching the recording as well. And if anybody wants to come on the show, please message Mike and myself.
Well done, Joe. You're very good at doing that. I always forget. So yes, really appreciate it. Thank you very much. We had a couple of questions around improving page speed. So we've got one around WordPress, we've got one around Sitecore, and I don't know whether next week or the week after we try and have a bit of a segment where we try and cover all of those. One thing I would probably say is there are some other great SEOs here on the call. So obviously there's Joe, but there's also Chris, Monse, Dani. So feel free to reach out to them because I think and sorry, Simon, I can't forget Simon, lots on there. So if you're having issues with Sitecore or whatever and you're struggling, reach out to some of these great SEOs just to see how they can help. But we will come back to them. I just think we've got quite a lot of those and we don't have much time. So I just wanted to flag, we'll cover that next week. Okay, last question before our regular question. I've got our rankings are way up compared to last year, yet we're getting fewer leads coming in. There's not actually a question there, but I guess the question is, why is that? Is anybody else experiencing that? So they're actually saying rankings. They've not specifically said organic traffic. So that actually could be something to check. But has anybody else experienced that? If that's the case, what would you recommend? Joe, if your rankings are way up, but you're getting fewer leads coming in, why might that be?
I would actually just check if everything's working, your checkout process, if that's working okay or not, and also just check your prices. We have seen a lot of downturn in the market, so it may be that just people are not able to afford the products anymore. So have a look and see what are the products being sold versus last year. Are they cheaper or not?
Great. Gabi, what are your thoughts? Because obviously you've run an e-commerce website. If your rankings are up, but fewer sales are happening, what would you look at first?
Yeah, I would also check brand mentions because maybe brand recognition, brand awareness in general is going down and you have to work in that direction. And also, what are those rankings? Or even if more organic traffic is coming in, is it for really informational queries? And aren't you maybe funneling people enough? So is it very awareness driven and you're not giving enough, maybe in the classical funnel, consideration content and content around the product, and can you improve within the customer journey?
Great. Steve, do you have anything to add?
Not much to say, really. I don't really get too involved in this, but if it was me, I would just sit there as a user and try and work through the whole site as a user, imagine my experience to see if maybe there are some silly mistakes that have been made. Competitors can also play into this as well. If new competitors are on the scene with a better experience, not an SEO. Don't get involved with that stuff.
Yeah, I guess obviously, like I said, the question says about rankings, not necessarily organic traffic. So it could be that you're using tools that are giving you some sort of score or some sort of indication that things are going a certain way. But often these tools only look at the kind of the keywords that you put in the first place. And I'm sorry, I've got a dustbin or van or something reversing and it's putting me off. Yeah, so it's so obviously you're looking at that kind of small window that you're judging your website by, but actually there are usually lots of other keywords, lots of other metrics. Also, the SERPs themselves change. So this time last year, SERPs looked a bit different. Like I spent a lot of my time just looking at the search results for quite competitive terms, and often you see changes in the way they look. And so I would probably not just look at rankings, I'd probably look at things like click-through rates. I would also look at what pages are now ranking for those terms. Are they more informational pages rather than product pages? And I think obviously user experience, we get similar questions like this quite a bit. And I would probably look at doing some A/B testing or look at something like Microsoft Clarity or Hotjar or 4Story, which basically show you user session replays so you can see what people are doing on the site. Or if not, even something like GA4, you can create funnels and see where you're losing people. So maybe you are getting more organic traffic, but they're just not getting through. Have you made any changes, like Joe was saying, to your checkout section? But yeah, I wouldn't totally base what you're doing solely on rankings, because I think that's only a small window of what you're trying to do as an SEO team. Joe, is there anything in the chat?
Yeah, actually, John made a good point about localization. Fix that. You might have people not actually be able to purchase the product there. Umam was talking about checkers traffic sources. Are you getting their traffic from relevant sources? Landing pages might not be meeting the expectations of the users. And no, that's it. But yeah, nice comment from John.
Okay, let's go to our last question, which is a regular question that we have every week. I can't find it, but it's not that hard to remember, which is, What are you most excited about from an SEO perspective at the moment? Gabi, what are you most excited about?
I'm really excited about getting back into things, SEO, of course, after the maternity leave. And I'm actually pretty excited about also reading through the discussion points about Search GPT and maybe something we can call the democratization of search engines. So what AI is doing to search and vice versa. So that's going to be fun, all the testing out and seeing how rankings differ. And maybe we do find out how to rank in search engines, although in Search GPT, although many claim they already know. And of course, I'm super excited to speak at my first 2 very big conferences. So that's going to be my highlight of 25 already. I know that already.
Amazing. Steve, what are you most excited about from an SEO perspective?
Competition, finally, for Google. This is fantastic. This makes it so exciting. It's going to pep everyone up, especially Google. We're going to see more changes next year as they fight the competitors. I think it's a very exciting time right now, and I'm really looking forward to 2025. Hey, I should also shout out to Simon Cox. I'm excited to see what happens on Blue Sky, the social media platform, because everyone seems to be jumping off Twitter onto Blue Sky. Let's all do Blue Sky, shall we? Come on, let's make a decision. Let's do Blue Sky.
Great. Could somebody put the URL in the chat and we'll sign up right now? That sounds great. Joe, what are you most excited about from an SEO perspective?
I'm very excited about events. Dani started the SEO office hours in Spanish a couple of weeks ago. It looks like it's going very well. We also have International Search Summit in Barcelona next week now. I'll just share the link in the chat. There's still a couple of tickets available, and there'll be a lot of people coming to Barcelona. So looking forward to seeing some of you there. And Simon has just shared the Blue Sky link. Thank you very much. I saw that earlier in the week, Simon, and I will be looking to sign up.
As Dani, I can see you on my screen. How is it going? Can I add you in for a second just to let us know? Because unfortunately, I don't speak Spanish, which is quite annoying for my fiance because she is. I'm just going to.
You will learn Spanish.
Hi, you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. How's it going?
It's really fun. We are still learning because it's a little bit like I saw now. It would actually be a good idea to introduce the SEO office hour at the beginning and not just guests, but we're still learning, and it's as a live stream on YouTube, so it's a little bit a different concept, but we get a lot of feedback and it's really cool. And we will already miss next week because I'm speaking at the International Search Summit. So it's like the 3rd week. We're already like, please skip 1 week.
Oh, that's okay. We had to do that a few times, but not for speaking, usually attending. But great, congratulations. I just want to say thank you to everybody for joining. Thank you to our speakers. Thank you, Joe, for co-hosting. Thank you those for watching live. Thank you those for watching on YouTube afterwards. And thank you to those that submitted the questions. I promise we'll try and get through some more of them next week. Have a lovely weekend. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Have a great weekend.
And Dani, thanks for joining us as well.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you
Bye,
so
Steve.
much.
Bye, Gabi.